and welcome to the very first episode of America with an Accent, a news magazine to and from an immigrant. A production of New Americans Media and KPAO, Public Access Television, the show comes to you from the heart of the United States, the great state of Nebraska and city of Omaha. Here at New Americans Media, we aim involvement among us, newcomers, and extend an invitation to Native Americans to get to know better their foreign-born neighbors. Today, I would like to introduce you to my city, Omaha. I sat down with Steve Jordan, a former reporter with the Omaha World Herald, the city's newspaper, and Cindy Gonzalez, as well a reporter with the Omaha World Herald. Here is what they had to say about the Big O, as we like to call Omaha. Omaha to the world. Let's start with a short introduction of you guys. Cindy, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am Omaha born and raised, so this is my hometown. And I've worked the last couple of decades at the Omaha World Herald, covering, which is our daily newspaper in town, in the state. And I've covered beats ranging from demographics, immigration. Most recently, I'm covering real estate development and housing. So from these vantage points, I've had the opportunity actually to witness the growth of our city, geographically, demographically, socially. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Then you're the right person to be here.
Yeah,
Steve, how about yourself?
Well,
you just retired, is that right?
Yeah, I just retired about a month ago, and I came to Omaha from with an Air Force family, like a lot of people have located here. Actually, Scotch, Irish, and English in background, as long as we're talking about heritage. And I've been at the World Herald since 1967, and covering a lot of things. And Cindy and I have worked on stories about immigration, employment, and how companies depend on new workers coming to town. And so we've done a lot of stories on things that will fit into the discussion about immigration.
Then we're glad you're here, and I'll start with a short summary of Omaha. What research says about Omaha is located in the middle of the United States, or for reference, 425 miles west of Chicago, is the largest city in the state of Nebraska, shares the border and the river with the city of Council Bluffs in Iowa, and the metropolitan area has a population of 935,000 people. Most of them are white, born here, and only 7.8% of the population is foreign-born. Cindy, what is the first documented ethnic group that settled in Omaha? Tell us a little bit about the history of immigration in Omaha.
Okay, so of course, our first occupants of the area, people who lived here, were the Native Americans, and which is where we got our name Omaha. But then as the state began to settle, Europeans mostly from Central Europe were settling in the eastern part of Omaha, and that would be Scandinavians, Danes, Germans, Polish. Probably there was a trickle then in around 1910 or so, 1920, which actually is when my grandmother came as a toddler from Mexico with her family. That was probably the early wave of Mexican families here in the Omaha area, and then followed also by more Europeans from Southern and Eastern Europe. So that would be right, correct. And then you can tell kind of, it's really cool the way that our city developed too, because we have, as the various groups settled in Omaha, they created ethnic enclaves in the city. So from there grew parishes. For example, like St. Francis Cabrini Parish was the Italian parish. Later, Our Lady of Guadalupe became the Mexican parish. There was Immaculate Conception in South Omaha, which became the Polish parish. St. Anthony's for the Lithuanian families. Anyway, that's kind of how the early settlement started. Then, of course, later came our Vietnamese population, and more recently, we have more refugee status newcomers coming from Africa, Somalia, Sudan, and the Karen families are now here and inhabiting coming to our city, and we're enjoying that. So, Steve?
Yeah, it's an interesting mixture, because I think originally the people did tend to stay in their neighborhoods, and then, but over time, people move around, next generation goes somewhere else, and so there's been kind of this, they call it a mixed green salad, where people live in a lot of different places, but there still are certain neighborhoods. We have a generally black population in northeast Omaha, but that's also done some spreading out, and so it's the city has a full mixture of all sorts of people.
So does Omaha have residential areas that are identified with ethnic groups or racial groups? Do we have? I know South Omaha is very Hispanic, I would say.
It's true, and it's interesting because South Omaha, it was near the packing plants that Omaha had, and that's where people could work even if they maybe didn't have the language skills that you might need. You could still have a family, raise a family with working at the packing plants. And so a lot of the Central Europeans who came to the country without language skills would work there first. And gradually those, their kids went elsewhere, and there was a period where South Omaha was pretty down in the dumps, and the Latin Hispanic groups have filled in that area and really made it their own neighborhood.
Yes, I was surprised when you mentioned that South Omaha was mainly Polish at first, because when I moved to Omaha in 2000, it has always been Hispanic to me. I have never known that part of Omaha as Polish or Slavic, for that matter.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was interesting as I started to cover immigration in the city. Even then, there along Q Street, there were Irish rooted businesses, bars, and merchants, and that slowly changed. It was interesting because there was a really popular bar there on 36th and Q that then became a Salvadoran restaurant, and so there became this this turn. And there are still some traces, and it's interesting, if you go to South Omaha, you still see storefronts that would have different names, the different cafes that would relate to the earlier ethnic groups. But now it is a little bit more. It was the original port of entry for immigrants, of course, as Steve said, because of the packing house. I mean, we had the world's largest packing plant, meatpacking industry there. And all different sorts of people were coming to town settled in that area. So I would still say there are a lot of traces and of different ethnic groups there. I grew up around there, and of course when I would go in the 70s to my friends' homes, their grandparents or parents would all be speaking different languages. Definitely. Italian, Spanish, we had Lithuanian friends, Polish. So it has it's been interesting to see those changes for me too, just in the last couple of decades.
I also have noticed that northwest part of Omaha is being more populated by Indians from India, immigrants from India, and southwest part of Omaha from people coming from Asia mainly. So it's interesting to see the dynamics of immigration here in town.
Yeah, I think the Asian population is for a long time it was the Latino population that was the fastest growing, and the Asian population is very fast growing now, in smaller, of course, in its size and the slice of the bigger pie, but fast growing.
Yeah, and that is absolutely true, because the numbers actually say that the majority of today's immigrants come from Latin America, followed by Asia, Africa, and then Europe. Now, Steve, you covered business mainly, for a long time, you covered business for the Omaha World Herald. What and how is the economy of Omaha doing?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's reflecting the national economy right at this point. Omaha traditionally has lower unemployment than the rest of the country, and that's still true today. It's a situation where employers want to add more jobs than they necessarily find and then necessarily have qualified applicants. So that's one of the challenges. Omaha also maybe is somewhat lacking in businesses that are companies that are in the manufacturing sector. It's very big on services, financial, insurance, any kind of business services that you can find, architecture, construction, all those things. Probably a little bit short, other than food manufacturing, food-related manufacturing. Omaha really needs some strong manufacturing people, and they've lost some of those jobs in the past. But those are jobs that are part of it is kind of a chicken and egg thing. Do you locate a business here that needs manufacturing workers, or do you have manufacturing workers and then they would attract a business here? So it's a difficult balance to come through.
Cindy mentioned a little earlier that meat packing is one of the industries, or the main industries, or at least that Nebraska is known for beef and cow. What is the main industry in the city here in Omaha, and in the States for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I would say services have pretty much overcome the manufacturing. Now, there still is some meat packing, as you know. There still are some companies that do that, but that industry, instead of being really concentrated in a central location like it was, is spread out among a lot of places, and so we do have that section, but it's really the what you'd call white collar industries. Telemarketing has been a big industry in Omaha for a long time, and then that's a case where people who have other languages have some value to them, because people will call in for ordering to buy something, and if they want to speak another language, Omaha tends to have people who are able to do that. So that's an opportunity for people to come and work. So
if an immigrant would like to come to Omaha, relocate to Omaha, what are some of the jobs that they can do here? And what are some of the companies that hiring immigrants?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we worked some time ago with some immigrants from Laos, and they immediately got jobs. One, the guy got a job at a packing plant. The woman got a job at a laundry that does shared services, they called it. They do all the laundry for the hospitals and those kind of things. So there's those kind of works. The telemarketing industry does have demand for people who can speak well in their language. It's important that immigrants be educated in their own language as well as learning some English, but so that they're up to date on what needs to be done. I would say the telemarketing industry is a good one. Then all sorts of services that happen, you know, Cindy mentioned restaurants, and those kind of personal services are certainly looking for it. Banks have tellers that can, you know, communicate with their customers. They need people to do that.
And I would add to that, just sort of everything Steve said. But then there's this interesting return to an appreciation for the trades and artisanship. You know, we have the new North Makerhood in the industrial setting in North Downtown, and they're really trying to attract people, furniture makers, different people who are crafts people, which of course you go down 24th Street in the corridor where there are a lot of immigrant merchants. There are a lot of people who are experts in those crafts. So it's an interesting return to that appreciation, and I think there's room for our foreign-born population, and immigrant population to find their niche there too. So I think that's real interesting that sort of, because that is the forte of a lot of immigrants when they come here. You know, they're entrepreneurs, they're arts people, they're trades people. So, and that Omaha is starting a little bit more to turn around and appreciate that more than in the past is welcoming to them. And
let's approach the economy not just from the eyes of from an immigrant's perspective, but for a newcomer, for someone who is considering to move to Omaha. Personally, I have observed that in order for you to be able to have a middle class or upper middle class life here, you really have to have education and a degree. Does it hold true?
Yeah, I think both sides, and to comment a bit on talk about the trades, I mean, Metropolitan Community College has really become a booming sort of place for people For instance, there's a culinary institute there that turns out people having to do with the food and the restaurants and all those services. So when you say education, there are a lot of jobs that require you to learn things and have education, but not necessarily a 4-year bachelor's degree that we think about. Now, Omaha does have 2 medical schools, has 2 universities, Creighton University and University of Nebraska at Omaha. Vehbiu University is nearby, Iowa Western Community College, Metropolitan Community College. There's the Clarkson School of Nursing, so there's lots of schools depending on what sort of talents you may have or what sort of interest you may have. But it is important, you know, I mentioned the struggle to find qualified workers, and the key there is qualified. You know, you have people who apply for jobs but just don't have the qualifications, and yet there's job openings waiting for the right person to come along. So it's a good to find out what your skills are, what your talents are, and then go from there.
And let's approach Omaha from a different angle now. There are very few skyscrapers in Omaha. 65% of the population owns a house. Omahans don't like to move. 84% of them remain here where they are, and we drive a lot here in Omaha. And Omaha ranks very high nationally in terms of life quality and other variables. Cindy, what makes Omaha attractive to newcomers, and being them foreign-born or born here in the United States?
Well, for me, I kind of go back to the demographics. I like the diversity of the neighborhoods. So I like the fact that you can go west and you can see, you may, as a family, want to move there and there are newer homes, or south where there's in Sarpy County where there are newer homes also. But you can also go, there's a movement back to the river. It's a little bit more cool now to live downtown and in the mid-city, middle part of the city. So I think as a newcomer, it's just the variety and the diversity of things to do.
So housing is affordable in Omaha area?
They say,
Okay.
you know, I mean, it's I just wrote a story saying that it's the, Omaha is ranked number 7 in terms of the younger population, ranked 7 among the 100 largest metro areas in terms of the slice of millennials who are homeowners. So, and part of the reason is because housing is a little bit more affordable here, and income actually, our household income has raised faster than the national average too. Right. So, but yeah, so what do you say when a young person wants to come to Omaha? I say, you know, there's always different pockets of town that you can find things to do. If you have, if you're raising a family, or if you're starting into a career and looking for something here, there's something everywhere to find. It's just that you have to hook up with the group of people that know how to help you navigate the city.
Education is quite good
Right.
here in the state.
The public schools have a good reputation, and there's different districts within Omaha. The largest one is Omaha Public Schools, but there's also District 66, Gretna, Bellevue, that all have a good reputation. And then kind of overlaid on that is the parochial school system, and Omaha has a very healthy Catholic education system, several high schools that are not too far away, spread around the country, around the city. I might mention things to do in the evening. You know, Omaha really has an art scene, entertainment scene. Usually more things going on than you can attend. Sports are. It's interesting. Sports, high school sports are even big in Omaha, and yet Omaha has the College World Series every year, which is a really spectacular event, seeing the best college players come to town and their teams.
And Omaha has beautiful parks as well, and it's very clean for a big city.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Creighton is a Division I basketball team. Omaha U has a Division I hockey team. Creighton has a Division I soccer team, and the women's sports, Creighton's volleyball is ranked high this year again. So it's a lot of things going. You may not have the NFL and the AIFL, but in terms of college sports, we're one of the meccas of that.
Let me tell you, when we decided to move to Omaha, all we heard was cows and fields and beef. It was a good surprise. It's a nice city. Well, education is, we are very pleased. We are public school parents, and parks are really nice. And
you know, one thing about, you mentioned housing prices. I mean, the house next door to mine sold for $70,000. Some people went through and did some renovation, and they've got it priced at $135,000. and a couple just came by and said they made a bid. Now, $135,000 house is a decent house in Omaha. Not so in other places. You can't even find them at that price. So Omaha has lots of neighborhoods where they're reasonably priced houses like that.
All right.
And I agree with your assessment of the schools too. My kids went to public schools, and I hear that from a lot of people, that there are good public schools. And for the ESL program, English as a second language is also, I understand, outstanding. So.
Very dedicated teachers, yeah.
There are challenges, of course, in Omaha, so we're talking a lot about the great things, and there are great things going on. But, you know, speaking of that, I always thought that one of the challenges in Omaha, since my kids are now in their early 20s and they graduated from college, one of the big challenges for Omaha is to find, with our great low unemployment rate, is to really find, to better connect the growing populations in our community, which are people of color, to corporations and companies. And that's really going to be a key in helping our community grow, both economically and, you know, socially and demographically. We really have to find better ways to connect the population.
And keep the brain here
Yes.
in the state of Nebraska. Okay, and our last segment is, well, I have a few notes here. Omaha is a young city, is almost 165-year-old this coming July.
I like that, young.
The word, I mean, I come from Europe, so the word Omaha means dwellers on the bluff. It's a Native American word. Also, the word Nebraska is an Indian word and means flat water. What else can you tell us about Omaha? What is the favorite food or typical food? What is the weather like here in Omaha?
Well, we have all the weather that you could want, from 110 degrees in the summer and humid. There's falls and spring where it rains and is crisp and clear, and then winters that may go down below zero occasionally with some snow. You know, it's a way to enjoy all four seasons if you're talking about weather. 75, we had a pretty good tornado go through town. It caused a lot of damage. We've had blizzards before, but I once heard that there are no enemies when it's 0 degrees. Everybody is a friend when it's that cold. So
that's right.
People learn how to roll with the weather.
Okay. How about food, Cindy? Does Omaha have a plate or typical?
Well,
Meal?
you know, so I'm not a big foodie, although a lot of my friends are. I just, you know, enjoy all the foods. And of course, I love to go to those pockets that we talked about, finding some authentic tacos in South Omaha, or going to the Benson area and finding some little places in there. Or where else? Going down North Omaha.
I will say, Omaha still has steaks. You
True,
Yeah.
and it's, yes, fewer steakhouses, but they're still great.
Yeah, the only problem with Omaha steaks is when you go out of town, don't bother having a steak. You know, if you've got the good steaks here.
All right. Who are some of the famous Omahans or Nebraskans?
I mean,
You covered one.
Henry Fonda and Marlon Brando are pretty good, pretty well known. Gerald Ford was born here. People don't know that because he moved to Michigan when he was early. Then there's the Gerald Ford birthplace that you can visit. You know, Warren Buffett is a current famous guy that people may recognize and makes
you wrote
Omaha
a book
his
about
own.
him.
Wrote a book, and he's somebody who's known worldwide. You know, the Chinese come here once a year for Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, and there are probably, I think they figured 4,000 or 5,000 Chinese visitors who come just for that meeting.
Of course, we have the Malcolm X birth site on the north side, and some other, you know, some of our schools in South Omaha are named after people from Omaha that have done great things. It's a whole nother show I'll talk to you about.
Yes, absolutely. And I think our time is up for today, but the state of Nebraska just issued, or Nebraska just have introduced a new slogan. Nebraska, honestly, is not for everyone. Let me tell you, as an immigrant, is very much for me. So with that said, I would like to thank you both for being here with me, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At the end of each episode, you will find a segment, Letters to Andy. That is nothing more than just a monologue on life in the form of an imaginary correspondence between me and my friend Andy. Here is what Andy received today. Dear Andy, greetings from Omaha. I would like to share with you my thoughts on my new life, my immigrant story, and here comes my first letter. I'll be short, I promise. I have a vague memory of the day I left my beautiful Albania in August 2000. The new century had marked the start of a new life for me too. Unknowingly, I had given myself the label of an immigrant, which I disliked at first, but I have grown to respect it in two main aspects. I am never bored. You just can't when you're an immigrant. I am challenged early in the morning when I read news and I find 2 to 3 new words every day. I'm upset when I realize that I don't know the new system that well. My 7th grader couldn't play football at first at school just because his parents didn't know a physical was needed. But I am as happy as a child at the end of the day when I play the promo piece for my America with an Accent show. A dream come true. As an immigrant, I've grown to be grateful too. I'm grateful that I live, created my family, and raised my children as citizens of the United States of America. I met my husband Alexei, originally from Russia, in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We are grateful for the education we received at New Mexico State University. I am thankful that I live in Omaha. We both, my husband and I, pursue our careers and are blessed with 2 Omaha boys, students of the Omaha Public School District. I am grateful to Small Business Administration, Omaha Public Library, and KPAO Public Access Television for helping me find my window to the world. And most of all, I'm grateful to all of my friends in New Mexico, Nebraska, and Albania who never ceased believing in me and are always supportive of my dreams. I feel blessed. It is time for me to give back to the society, and this is how America with an Accent was born. Immigration, Andy, is much more than documents. Till next time, Enkela. I hope to see you again next week here on KPAO or online at newamericansmedia.com and our NAM YouTube channel. Hang in there, newcomers. I am Enkela Vehbiu.